I upload daily NBA videos on this channel, so if that is something that interests you, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Also, real quick, new My NBA video over on my second channel, so if you have not watched that already, I would really appreciate it if you did so. Same goes for just the series in general. But as the title implies today, I need to talk about Christian Wood. Christian Wood is a player that I have talked about quite a bit on this channel, and really the main reason that I want to talk about him is that somehow, out of all of my bad takes, I actually got a good one here. I was right. I am as surprised as you are. After Legend of Winning decided to post my old tweet from before the 2018 draft that didn't age particularly well, I decided that I was going to start talking about some of my W's, I guess, because they're far and few between. This is the penalty of having takes out there. That one was particularly bad. If you have not seen that one already and you decided I'm an idiot, well, you're correct. I am an idiot. But with that, I want to talk about Christian Wood. He has looked amazing for the Houston Rockets thus far this season. Though it is a small sample size of only 4 games, the guy is averaging 24 points and 11 rebounds. He is shooting 56% from the field and 35% from 3 on about 4 attempts per game. He is shooting 62% from 2-point range, and he actually has looked semi-respectable as a defensive player, which was his biggest issue. So, Christian Wood, 20 and 10 guy on really good efficiency, just for $13 million a year or something like that for 3 years, something like that. That's a hell of a contract for the Houston Rockets. And as I said, I was on the Christian Wood train for quite a while. I have talked about him on this channel a few times. I also talked about him on my old podcast, the basketball podcast called the Hoopscast that I don't do anymore. Here's a clip of me talking about Christian Wood before last season began and he got any minutes playing for the Pistons. Got the Detroit Pistons, underrated. I'm going to go Christian Wood.
Who the hell is that?
He had a really good really good couple of games with the Pelicans last year. I think the reason he did so well in New Orleans is because he's like a poor man's Anthony Davis, and he fit in with that system. So like that's basically how he plays, except he's a better 3-point shooter but a way worse defender. But yeah, and obviously he's not nearly as dominant inside, but like he's a good NBA player and he barely got signed this year.
Okay.
So yes, I was correct about Christian Wood. So, thank you. No. Hold your round of applause. I just want to talk about him, and I've talked about wanting to talk about him, so how about I talk about him? Christian Wood is just awesome. He is pretty much, I would say, the perfect offensive package for a big man in 2020. He is both great as a guy who finishes plays, like as a guy who is the guy who gets assisted, if you know what I mean, like pick and roll stuff, catching alley-oops. And luckily in Houston, he has 2 phenomenal playmakers with James Harden and John Wall. Doesn't get much better than that in terms of playmaking for a backcourt, so that makes his life a little bit easier. James Harden being traded could eventually affect that in some regard, but at the same time would also mean more shots for him, so I think that balance out. So he's great at being a roll man in the pick and roll, great lob target. He's also a guy who can create offense on his own because he's a really good dribbler, and then as a power forward, he is long, he is very athletic, and he is very quick. Like, he is fast for a guy his size, and when he matches up against centers or slower power forwards, he's able to take them off of the dribble rather consistently, and the reason that they have to stick to him on the perimeter so that he's able to create off of the dribble is because he can shoot. His 3-point shot has looked a little bit iffy with the Rockets thus far. There are nights where he's hitting them and nights where he's not. It's been 4 games, granted. There was a stretch where he hit 3 3-pointers in 3 straight possessions for the Rockets. I don't think his 3-point shot is amazing, but it's pretty reliable. And it's good enough that defenses definitely have to respect him from out there, and then because they have to do that, he's able to take these bigs off of the dribble, and even if he doesn't get by them, he's really good at contorting his body in a way that he can just get up a good finish regardless of what the defense does. There's one drive in particular, I don't know who the defender was, but he drove, put his left elbow into him, and then pulled back and then did like an awkward floater. And it just dropped because he's very good at contorting his body around the defense when he's not able to get by them. Also, of course, when he's on smaller defenders, he's able to overpower them. If he gets a mismatch in the post, he's going to score off of that if you do not bring a double team unless he just misses the shot. So Christian Wood, perfect scoring big man in 2020 to me. He can stretch it out. He can dribble. He's good in the pick and roll, pick and pop option. He's also good in the post. I forgot to mention that. He's not amazing. That's probably the one area of his game that could definitely see improvement, not because he's not good at it, just because everything else he's kind of pretty damn great at, and he's just okay in the post. He has good touch on the hook shot. He can go to a face-up mid-range shot. His percentages on those last year in Detroit were not amazing, and that's why I think I made a comparison to him scoring-wise to Anthony Davis. Not in general. That's a very important distinction to make. Just in terms of putting the ball in the basket, I do think they are very similar. The one difference being that Anthony Davis is one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. Christian Wood, he's all right at it. So that's the big distinction, but I would also argue that Christian Wood is a better three-point shooter, though Anthony Davis has definitely taken a very big step in the three-point shooting direction. So I think that part kind of evens out, and then AD gets the edge on the mid-range shooting, and he is a better lob target, even if Christian Wood is a really good one, because Anthony Davis is potentially the greatest lob target in the history of the NBA. So for that reason, obviously he's going to get the edge in that department. But the weaknesses for Christian Wood come with, he's not really a playmaker, so I can't say he's the perfect offensive big as much as really he's the perfect scoring big. And then defensively, has not been amazing. Now, the other day, the game he played yesterday, he did some fantastic rim protection. He had 4 blocks, but then on top of that, he was just contesting shots well. If Christian Wood can be an average defensive player, this guy, to me, is a perennial all-star. And I realize that there's been people in the past who have been very hesitant on actually giving Christian Wood these compliments and giving him this kind of certainty and this kind of like just confidence that he's going to continue to be what he has shown flashes of being. But the thing is, I've never really felt like they were flashes. As I said in that clip that I showed, I have known about Christian Wood ever since he showed up on the Pelicans and played amazing. And a lot of people looked at that and was like, it's 8 games. But it wasn't like these were moves or shots or whatever that is like, he's just getting kind of lucky, got a good hot streak, and that's really just it. Like, he very clearly showed skill for putting the ball in the basket. He was doing moves, he was hitting face-up jump shots, three-pointers, clearly had advanced handle for a big man, clearly was very athletic for a big man. It was very clear to me that this guy, what he was in those 8 games with the Pelicans, that's what he was. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just a hot streak. It wasn't playing late in the season and defenses don't really care and they're getting ready for the playoffs, so they don't give a shit about Christian Wood actually scoring, like the Josh Jackson effect. No, this guy was legit. I felt that way from the beginning. And when the Pistons signed him, and he also struggled to get a contract, I was very much like, why is no one taking this very, very low risk, high reward move right now? And clearly I was correct about that. And the Detroit Pistons took that very low risk, very high reward move. He played so well that they eventually decided to trade Andre Drummond, partially because of him and partially because they didn't want to play, or they want to pay for his player option, which is perfectly understandable. And then they gave Christian Wood the keys, and he averaged over 20 points per game when Andre Drummond was gone. And to me, and to many other people, it seemed pretty fucking obvious the Detroit Pistons were going to bring the guy back, because this is one of the is this not the only bright spot on that Pistons team from last year? Sekou Doumbouya is like a guy who can be decent or even be good. He's a guy who's like very raw potential type of guy. But the only guy that was very clearly like, this is something we can rely on to some extent or another and is fairly young, why would you not re-sign this guy? I heard from Nick on Twitter. He got shouted out by Kenny and I think Crispy Flakes as well, so I'm going to mention him here too so he can get the triple. He told me something like the Pistons were wanting to go into more of a defensive-minded mindset. A defensive-minded mindset, I guess that makes sense. And Christian Wood, not a defensive player. But the thing is, As much as I like the Jeremy Grant signing, and as much as I will defend the Mason Plumlee signing, even though I don't think it's like really that amazing, like I think Mason Plumlee is worth that contract, but like, who cares if you sign Mason Plumlee? But the fact of the matter is, Christian Wood is already a miles better player. I don't know about miles. A good bit better of a player than anybody else on that Pistons roster. I guess Jeremy Grant, if he is able to hold up what he has been doing, kind of takes that edge. They still could have signed Jeremy Grant and then brought back Christian Wood, I believe, with how their salary worked. Just not giving Mason Plumlee that money, giving him more money, and it just didn't work out that way. And I think the Pistons are looking at this and regretting it. I know Pistons fans are tired of hearing about it, but you guys fucked up. I don't know what else to say. With the Houston Rockets, in their case, they have just a fantastic player to be very excited about. And that's nice to have for the Rockets because not everything in Houston is going particularly well. I mean, things are technically going well for the Rockets right now just because they're a pretty deep team with James Harden. But James Harden still seems to want out. That seems to be the indication. If he was to come around and actually want to stay on this team, then yeah, they would be pretty damn good. But doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. However, Christian Wood being 24, averaging 20 and 10 on great efficiency, and then even showing signs of being not horrible defensively, that's something that can give you some level of hope if you're a Houston Rockets fan, because the James Harden's been your guy for almost a decade now. So it's hard to go from just having that established to like, all right, we actually have to do something different now. And they are having to do something different. It's looking like they're going to have to. But it's nice to have something to be happy about, and Christian Wood is something to be happy about. I think the guy can be a perennial all-star because he is someone who can average an efficient 25 points per game at either power forward or center, a guy who can average around 10 rebounds, and especially if he cannot be abysmal defensively, that's a guy that is going to be very good and very impactful. I think he's going to be able to lead the Rockets to a decent record, even if James Harden's gone, just because they have some established veterans there as well. So Christian Wood gives the Rockets something to be happy about, and I was right. I'm sorry. Maybe it sounds like I'm braggadocious. I'm normally wrong, so I have to take the W when it comes to me, and this was a W. So I had to talk about Christian Wood. I had to talk about the 5% of times where I'm actually correct. So yeah. Again, go check out that My NBA video if you have not yet. But that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.